Alright, so it's Q2 of 2020 and we have already seen several major smartphone announcements. We are seeing better cameras this year that can zoom further and has higher megapixel counts. You are seeing higher refresh rate displays on flagships and even on mid-range devices these days. And last but not least, this year has been a year full of 5G devices. Alright, so despite of this advancement, just like every other year, we are seeing smartphone advancements coming to a bottleneck where they just keep getting faster and faster. But the thing is that last year's devices are still working fine. So which is why I have the Google Pixel 4 XL right here, which I'm going to talk about today. I haven't really reviewed this phone on this channel before, and I'm not thinking to do a review since everybody has already known what it is capable of. But what I'm going to tell you today is whether is it still worth buying a Pixel 4 XL in 2020, and I'll also share my views with you on why you shouldn't be buying a Pixel 4 XL in 2020. The number one reason that you will want to own a Pixel 4 or Pixel 4 XL in 2020 is definitely software. Now, this is Google's very own Android phone, and they will prioritize any latest Android updates on security patches on the Pixel lineup. And oh, one thing I forgot to mention is Feature Drop, which is exclusive to Pixel devices where you get additional software features over time. The most recent one being the Much Feature Drop, where you're getting several useful features, and Google aims to make such updates in a more regular manner. The second reason why I think the Pixel 4 is still worth buying in 2020 would be its cameras. Now, the cameras may not sound as great as the Galaxy S20 Ultra's 108 megapixel and its 100 times space zoom feature, but in 2020, this is still a very capable shooter. Now take a look at these camera samples which I took when I was traveling in California last December. If you look at the colors, it looks very natural. It doesn't oversaturate like other flagships out there that has their own AI enhancement features. Google uses its computational photography to decide how the photo should actually look, and I'm glad they actually tune it to a very natural tone, which you can actually further enhance with more saturation and more colors if you ever want to in post-process, which I think is a really great feature when they do that. Now, the most impressive thing about the camera is the astrophotography mode. Now, I know this is something really niche out there and probably not everyone would agree that it is something that's necessary on the phone, but the thing is that Google is showing off its night sight, or so-called its night mode capability on the Pixel 4 XL by including the astrophotography mode, which you can see on the camera samples right now. I took this photo at Yosemite Valley. It was an extremely dark night and pretty cool as well. There was very little light source around, and yet the Pixel 4 XL's camera was able to capture all the stars in the sky, and it is a very, very impressive photo. There are of course things that I'm not impressed with Google's camera setup. For instance, it doesn't have a ultra wide angle lens, so when you want to take wider group photos or you want to take a super wide landscape picture, you can't do that, but this is what it is. Still a great camera nonetheless, and one of the reasons why you should still buy a Pixel 4 XL in 2020. The last reason why I think the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL is worth getting is the display. Now, I know that sounds a little ironic because there are technically better displays out there with better brightness and higher refresh rates. But to be fair, the Pixel 4's display still has a 90Hz refresh rate that still looks pretty good, and it's barely noticeable when you put it next to a 120Hz display. Once you look at this display, you will never go back to a typical 60Hz display. But the one thing that I really like the most on the Pixel 4 XL's display is that it has no notch or camera cutouts. Yes, it still has a pretty thick bezel on the top, but I do forgive that because it houses all the facial recognition and its solid radar sensor on top, so it definitely requires that bezel on top. But Google has done it well without putting on a really ugly notch like it did back on the Pixel 3 XL. And with this no notch display, you get the best viewing experience when you're watching a video on this thing, and I really enjoy that, even though it doesn't have the best brightness or the highest refresh rate. Now, on top of that, you do get really good stereo speakers on this thing, and best of all, since it doesn't have a full screen display or a pop-up camera, it has IP68 water and dust resistance. Now, let's talk about why you shouldn't be buying a Pixel 4 or Pixel 4 XL in 2020, and the number one reason is storage. Now, I know 128GB sounds a lot to some people, which you will never get to finish that kind of storage, but considering that this is a flagship and smartphone enthusiasts will probably be buying this device, having 128GB of internal storage without storage expansion is kind of stingy these days, especially considering like we take 4K videos and we take a lot of photos on our phone, and even though Google has a cloud service for backing up your photos, having that much of internal storage is no longer sufficient these days. And the worst part is that Google doesn't believe in expandable storage, and it has continued to be on the Pixel 4 XL or Pixel 4 this time. It doesn't have micro SD expansion, so once you run out of space on your phone, the only option is to either save it onto your PC or you upload to Google's cloud, and you gotta pay for more if you want to upload originals up to Google's cloud service. Second reason on not buying the Pixel 4 this year would be price. It is still a very expensive device as of right now. It will set you back at $799 for the Pixel 4 with 64GB of storage, and that's a really expensive price tag for its storage configuration. And I think you shouldn't be buying the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL if you store a lot of things on your phone, and paying that much of money, you could be better off buying probably an iPhone 11 if you like iPhones, and probably some other Android flagships out there. Last but not least, the reason why I think you shouldn't be considering a Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL this year would be its specs. Now, I'm not suggesting that the Pixel 4 XL specs sucks, because by all means it is a very powerful smartphone. It's still powered by a Snapdragon 855 processor. It has 6GB of RAM that is sufficient for most applications already. Doesn't lose out to those 12GB phones, to be honest. But why I'm suggesting against it is because better chipsets will come out later in the end of the year, and by then the Snapdragon 855 chip will be obsolete. Well, obsolete in the sense when it comes to connectivity. You're spending a lot to buy the Pixel 4 XL, and you should be getting better chipsets when you pay for that kind of price. And especially future smartphone chips will come with 5G connectivity. It will be future-proof for years to come, and this is the reason why you should not consider getting the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL. That sums up my thoughts about the Pixel 4 XL in 2020. It is definitely worth getting in some ways, and in many ways, it is definitely not worth getting it as well. So that's pretty much about it right now. Stay tuned for more videos coming right out on KLGadgetTV. Leave your comments down below if you have any questions or feedback about this. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you saw, and be sure to subscribe to us on KLGadgetTV, and don't forget to click on that bell notification icon to be notified of our latest uploads. As for now, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.